Welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report on Thursday, and we're tracking down Leo Zagami. Hopefully he's not caught in traffic or some other issues come up. But we are planning also this weekend of doing a video with Leo. I want to make a couple of interesting Nutrimed announcements. I just posted up our new product for male hormone enhancement, and it is a natural product. It does not contain any hormones, but it stimulates your body to make the hormones. It's called Testo Cream. And this is an amazing product. I usually recommend you take it with DHEA and pregnenolone so your normal organs work. You don't overwhelm it with external hormones, which make your testicles become like raisins, and also can, with excess hormone, make your body convert it in your fatty tissue and your liver into female hormone, which is very bad. That's why I recommend Men's Max to release the male hormone. Then also use the hormone synergy, 8-parental neurenogen, to block conversion to female hormone. It works as vice versa for females to make sure it doesn't turn to male. DHA and pregnenolone creams, and now the Testo cream. And you usually use half a teaspoon daily for a 21-day cycle, off a week. Before exercise and sexual activity, you use 2 teaspoons before exercise or sexual activity. This will increase your male hormone output, which increases muscle mass, helps counteract heart disease because DHA and pregnenolone are very helpful for that, and helps to keep your skin, robust and thick so it doesn't break as you get in your 60s and 70s. Helps so many other issues in your body. Maintaining your hormone levels are very important. So male andropause now is safely treated naturally, and because the body is working with it, it's a new product that's available right now. And by the way, our Nutrimed Santa program is going well. People just need to call us and tell us where they want us to ship. If they get a 3-pack or 6-pack and they want to go to 3 or 6 different locations, we'll do that. We'll pop a card on the top, say it came from you. That's a nice way to say, better, take care of your health next year, so you're around for many more years, many more Christmas, New Year's, and people are taking advantage of it. So I really want to thank you for doing that. Next issue is let's look at some of the issues that we often find on what I call Drudge Report and elsewhere. And one of the things that I think people should realize is that I get a kick out of Drudge. He's according to his own reports, he's got so many million hits that he's now considered the 4th most important person in media worldwide, and I can see that mainly because he's going to post things up and ask people questions. The top question I saw this morning when I looked at my Drudge, I have to drudge every morning and night, is Trump already president? And of course, U.S. Steel is now saying they're going to rehire 10,000. That's amazing. Climate skeptic is heading to the EPA. That's really good, because most of the environmental maniacs are wrong-headed. We can have clean coal technology, and we can have energy independence, which is essential to building America back again. The left is freaking, of course. They're a bunch of intellectual idiots who really don't understand environment. The galactic and solar events that are happening are completely out of the control of mankind. The things that are in control are pollution. So if you have clean coal technology, don't put nitric oxide or heavy metals in the atmosphere like the Chinese do with inferior coal. We can sell the Chinese our high-quality coal, and even better, liquid natural gas. We should also be converting all our nuclear reactors to LNG in the process of building up tokamak fusion reactors, and we know how to build them. So there really is no excuse. Marine General is headed to Homeland Security. That's an excellent move as well. So he's going to be a very strong person in terms of border control. And the border will be, a chimera. It'll be some places a double fence, some places a wall, other places none. No wall because you have to have access to the Rio Grande River. But it'll have 6,500 more border guard people, and they'll be able to interdict and do things. We'll also get rid of the sanctuary cities and sanctuary states like California. They're going to lose funding, and that will teach them a lesson. One of the other things I thought was quite funny is DiCaprio has managed to sneak in face-to-face, but even Al Gore has had a face-to-face talk with Donald Trump. He talks to anybody. And his list of people for a possible pick for Secretary of State is quite amazing. One of the events that happened here in California, off the coast in Northern California, just north of Sacramento, about 160 kilometers off the coast, is a 6.5 magnitude earthquake. Now, again, these fault lines out in the ocean floor are connected not only to the subduction zone of the Cascadia subduction, but also connected to San Andreas. The way you can tell if there's going to be an earthquake is the telluric currents start increasing across the fault zone. And they reach a certain level, the giant waves in the telluric currents start to drop the mu, or resistance, between the rock face, and they end up sliding. And they slide until the resistance starts to rise again. So if there's 12 feet of recoil in the rocks, which they are at San Andreas, and they're locked up north of California in Simi Valley, then what you want to know is, can you convert these megaquakes to microquakes using the same kind of technology used for noise-canceling headphones, which is to set up microquakes 300 or 400 a day, let's say, instead of a major quake every 200 or 300 years. So that's doable. And we should be right on that. The university is already looking at telluric currents for monitoring earthquakes, which is that kind of the basis for some of the background of the movie San Andreas with The Rock, or Dwayne Johnson. And I found out recently that Dwayne Johnson lives in my own town, Vista. He's the guy on Moana on this Disney program. He's an amazing guy, fantastic personality, funny, and a decent person, just amazing. So I'm sure he's a conservative too, living in Vista. The situation in terms of what's going on in Europe, of course, is still percolating. Le Pen is almost certainly going to be running for French. They'll reorganize, I'm sure, in Austria, and you'll see a conservative there. I'm concerned that the financial situations of all these banks are so highly leveraged they may collapse them, or the banks may do it as a controlled demolition, just like the World Trade Center towers. But we'll have to play that out and talk about that in the third hour with Tim Alexander. While I'm waiting for Leo Zagami, I will be on a Revelation Radio on the 15th of January with his radio name is Johnny Baptist. It was on the program about a month ago. Was well received. We had basically, I think I read about 90 minutes of straight broadcasts. So there were no breaks at all, believe it or not. No BR bathroom breaks, or bio breaks, I call them. Want to cover on some of the other things that are happening in terms of our Nutrimeds. We are working on a new nutraceutical that will also alter the autoimmune system of inflammatory arthritis. That will be coming out early in the new year. It has a lot of science and research behind it. Remember, sometimes it takes years for us to launch a nutraceutical. These are not regular nutraceuticals. I had a interesting discussion with one of my client people and Nutrimed people up in Montana, and he brought his blood sugar down very nicely with a combination of glucofetch, which he's already on, and our Nutrimeds, to fasting 150. He doesn't have far to go. 110 or less for fasting blood sugar is good. His own, I recommended that because of his limited budget, he wanted to see if there was any alternative, and I gave him a paper on some medications. Although I don't prescribe meds, his own doctor will do that. He recommended a drug called Trulicity. Now, Trulicity doesn't lower the sensitivity to insulin as much as glucofetch, which is a very old drug. It's actually one that's being researched for life extension, because even in nematode worms, it actually causes life extension. And it's most likely works through the telomeres and through the sensing program that's called the song of life, which is the song of your DNA and how it plays out. Now, it does raise blood insulin. Now, I got to tell you, I did the original research with Dr. Otto Huhn 36 years ago. Had a pathology at the University of Calgary. We had done the first research in the world on diabetes. And that research was interesting because we measured blood sugar, blood insulin, blood glucagon, ACTH, T3, reverse T3. I brought the test from Germany. Prolactin, as well as cortisol. And we had data points for 5 hours after the glucose load. And what that meant is, when you got all these data points, and no one's ever reproduced our studies. It was based on work by Dr. Kraft at the University of Chicago a few years earlier, and our work came out 5 years before Dr. Ravens at Stanford, or the 7 or 8 years later at the universities in Johannesburg, South Africa, on glycemic index. What we discovered is that the underlying root of diabetes is inflammation, as researched in the University of California, San Diego, and the loss of enzyme activity like superoxide dismutase glutathione peroxidase, and the increase in inflammatory molecules called leukotriene B4, which are inflammatory molecules that affect the number of insulin receptors on your macrophages, your big eater cells, your fat cells, and your muscle cells. When your receptor number drops, your body responds by raising insulin output, and eventually it also responds by raising the glucagon output, and glucagon makes your liver turn protein overnight in your liver into sugar through a thing called a one-carbon pathway. Now, why is this all important? Well, when you have polyhormone imbalances caused by the factors that trigger off inflammatory problem called diabetes. Now, long before a person turns diabetic, they may get osteoarthritis of joints, which is triggered by high levels of inflammatory molecules in their joints caused by high insulin. They may get a fatty liver because of increased triglycerides. They may not get obese, but they may have a dyslipidemia that predisposes to calcified plaque in their arteries, so they get heart or vascular disease. So it goes down multiple pathways. It may get accelerated eye degeneration like glaucoma, which is inflammatory changes in the ciliary process of the outside of the eye. So diabetes is a disease that, if you know diabetes, as has been said by some of the early fathers of internal medicine, you know medicine. With the Trulicity, for example, which is a once-weekly drug that's a glucagon-like peptide 1 analog, what it does is it's going to increase your body output of insulin, but it also lowers insulin resistance somewhat, not as much as glucophage. Now, the problem is anything that raises blood insulin, whether it's insulin shots or any of the diabetic drugs, there's a danger you can become ketoacidotic or have hypoglycemic attacks. Ketoacidosis can be real dangerous. So that's why if you're on this, you need to be doing testing of your urine for ketones probably at least weekly or twice weekly, and monitoring your blood sugar to make sure you're not crashing and burning. If you're having hypoglycemia, you're going to get dizzy. And one of the best signs I've found for people who get hypo is the color starts to go out of things. Things start seeing black and white, and they can't think straight. In other words, it's like their brain is like shutting down, because the brain runs basically like a high-tech racer on high octane sugar only. It will work on medium chain triglycerides like coconut oil, but unless you're drinking coconut milk, you're not going to get much MCT. So he's going to try it, but he's going to be monitoring. Now, I don't recommend any drugs, but I will give you information so you can make a valid decision on whether or not you want to try a particular treatment or ask questions. So I'm not giving medical advice here. I'm giving you information so you can make a valid decision. Wherever you can, you want to substitute nutraceuticals for toxic drugs. We already brought his blood sugar down with his previous glucophage, which his doctor put him on, and his blood sugar was still running around 289, 300. We brought it down to half that, to 150, just by adding diabetoline, leptin metabolic, and the berberstat, and the glycemics, meal replacement, snack replacement. So just doing those few things dramatically dropped it down. So if you can use nutraceuticals, whether it's controlling, say, rheumatoid arthritis with our Inflamex and Cell Defense Plus, and now we have this new product coming out in the new year. If you can turn off autoimmune diseases with high-dose Power C and our protocol we use for cancer as well, which includes malignant arrest, malignant block, ellagic acid, etc., and alkalinizing your body, well, let's do it. Let's not use disease-modifying drugs, like whether it's for psoriasis or some autoimmune condition like rheumatoid arthritis or scleroderma or inflammatory bowel disease. And I see tons of these drugs being advertised on TV. 4 to 6 seconds of benefits of the drug and 54 seconds of how it's going to make your life miserable or kill you. And you need to understand that when you take multiple drugs, because every person's their genetics and their toxic load and their nutritional status is different, they're going to react differently. And that's not good, because the doctors are like playing roulette by giving you multiple drugs where they know it will cause deficiency states. They don't know what your nutritional status is. We can with functional testing like the QRMA or blood tests that can actually measure your blood levels of vitamins, minerals, and packed red cell and other things. But the conventional doctors do not do any of these tests. They do what's called a SMAC panel, which is a kind of a general panel. They don't do what we call functional pathology, which is to know exactly what your biological state of your cells are, which is what's the metabolism, what's the toxicology, what's the stealth infectious disease, what's the immunological status, do you have activated lymphocytes? For example, I had a case of a person with Lyme disease, both a father and daughter, for years, and the daughter is very, very ill, and it's kind of wrecked their lives. their doctor put the daughter on Rocephin, and she got a horrifying reaction after getting some temporary improvement. And again, Rocephin, like many antibiotics, will not penetrate fully through the biofilm, and you'll get tolerant to it, or the drug itself may be toxic in the long run. So we have three major antipathogenics. We have Nutriodine, which is the Edgar Cayce monoatomic Tesla-activated iodine, and there's nothing equivalent. I know they advertise over it at Alex Jones that they have an iodine, something like ours. Forget it. There's only one person on the earth that knows how to make it, NASA contract engineer, and we haven't. Number two, I've designed the latest NutriSilver, which is the most advanced silver technology on the planet, and it's even much more powerful even than Silver 100, which is hundreds of times stronger than any colloidal or nanoparticle or other oxysilver that Len Horowitz, who doesn't know what the hell he's doing, is talking about. So, NutriSilver, and then we have the Allison Med. Now, Allison, designed by Peter Jostling, a chemist from Britain, which is like a pharmacist, but probably higher level, master PhD, has been around as a prescription in Europe, Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand for about 25 years. It's excellent. Problem is, it's very expensive, so we found a supplier that supplies it at 200 milligrams more per capsule at half the price. So we have a German supplier that's excellent. Then we have NutriDefense, which I personally designed. There's nothing like it in the market. It blocks all RNA and DNA viruses from attaching to cells. It has the most powerful antioxidant in the world called anhydrous polyphenol, right? And then we have, with that, things to block what's called the Fenton reaction, to block any pathogens from entering tissue planes, bacteria, virus, fungi. We have the most powerful stimulant for natural killer cells to kill cancer cells, infectious disease, etc. So you want to take NutriDefense. So I recommended that. Now, of course, when you have the toxic effects of cytokines, you affect what's called mitochondrial function, and particularly in the CNS. So I said for a starter program before we do a full consult and testing, you need to take Gamma E+, CoQ10 ubiquinol, and Brain Mag Calmine, because the nervous system is under stress, and you have to calm down the seizure activity in the limbic system because chronic fatigue and anxiety, depression, and sleep disorders. The Brain Mag and Calmine will help that tremendously. And you have to stabilize the metabolism of the astrocytes so they're firing and create a proper neural network. So peroxynitrate and hydroperoxy radical and nitroperoxy radical, Gamma E Plus will take care of it. You can also add cell detox glutathione. And the water-soluble, which affects the brain, CoQ10 ubiquinol, we have the most absorbable form in the world. So if you're having a migraine or seizure activity in the brain, animal or human, this stuff will stop it immediately. Puncture soft gel, take power methyl B12 under the tongue, and it'll stop your migraines. But it's also very helpful for reversing the CNS effects of chronic infections. Now, when I've done testing of individuals that claim to have Lyme or some other disease like chronic Epstein-Barr virus, and I've used immunosciences or other advanced immunology labs, which I've used for decades, what I find is that the vast majority have multiple pathogens in their system that shows a signature in IgG or IgM antibodies that they've had in the past or they have a current infection. Now, the way to tell with Lyme is a test called the I-Spot Lyme. The I-Spot Lyme test will tell us if you have activation of what's called IFN gamma, which indicates your T lymphocytes are now actively screwing up your body. So if you have a Lyme immunology panel, say through immunosciences, which is the most advanced for all the different types of Lyme and Lyme-like parasites, and you have the I-Spot Lyme test, you know where your starting point is, and you can determine it. If you're looking at the CNS or chronic fatigue, there are specific tests that can monitor your brain function. First is called a quantitative electroencephalogram, which is done by a neuroscientist or PhD psychologist. It's not a typical test for a neurologist. We can measure organic metabolites in your blood and urine. We can do a QRMA test and a metapathia Hunter function. And there's imaging tests such as a T1-weighted MRI scan to look for myelination pathways and a PET or positron emission tomography scan. So there's lots of ways to prove if you've got CNS effects of Lyme or other parasites. Leozagami. And I'm going to make it open lines. And by the way, in hour number 2, we have open lines as well. So we're going to have lots of discussion. If you have questions on any topic, health, geopolitical, spiritual, whatever, do just call in 800-313-9443. So I guess Leo could be either caught in traffic or involved in a geopolitical issue. Since the referendum, I guess he's very busy. Since the Italians are getting organized for a real national change in the whole policy and some degree of sovereignty, I'm skeptical. The reason is I think that financially they're going to be stymied by the banks pulling off the controlled demolition of the economy as a way to get the Italians and the Austrians and French back together and talking about a unified European army and literally a United States of Europe, which they didn't have. They had a trade union where they had bureaucrats that kind of managed everything, unelected officials. My guess is they'll try to have some degree of nationalism, but it'll be a federal state like the United States of America, only Europe. That's where I see this going. As they work back and forth, I think that the Italians are going to be surprised by the final outcome of this. I'm optimistic that some degree of nationalism will happen and the economy will come back because it hasn't grown in 10 years. But I'm skeptical with the powers that the banks have and the globalists that they're going to literally do their ultimate to make certain their version or a version of globalism still happens in Europe and around the world. And of course, we have the Bible to tell us that's what's going on. So let's go back to talking about health and wellness issues. And because I think it's important for people to understand how complex the whole process of getting your health back is, and what you have to do in order to obtain that and use a minimum number of medications or drugs. Let's see now. Let's see. Yeah, I went over this protocol for Lyme disease, and of course it includes NutriDefense, 2 capsules 3 times a day, Nutrimedical, 15 drops in water 3 times a day, NutriSilver, 1 spray or 3 drops per 10 pounds body weight 3 times a day, Allicin Med, a capsule 3 times a day. That's a starter. And if the budget permits, Gamma E Plus, Brain Mag, the Gamma E Plus 2 soft gels twice a day to 3 times a day, Brain Mag, a scoop 2 to 3 times a day. You can also combine that with Calm Mind because the nervous system is having a lot of stress. CoQ10, ubiquinol, and cell detox glutathione. These are important to stop the oxidative stress in the brain that occurs with chronic infections like Lyme disease, because the chronic fatigue and the chronic pain syndromes and myofascial pain are all part and parcel of the problem. Last night I did a very extensive QRMA analysis on one of our new people that's just acquired a QRMA. If they give me their history form and their medical situation, not necessarily the full 11-page, but just their history, I was able to do this for this lady last night, a very extensive analysis of what she needs to take to get her health back. And, you know, when you look at the QRMA test, it tells me if someone is predisposed to vascular disease, predisposed to obesity or diabetes, if their thyroid and adrenal glands are functioning normally, if they've got heavy metals like this lady turned out to have lead, and minor amounts of cadmium and arsenic. Of course, arsenic, the most common thing, is sourcing from a well or sourcing from eating a lot of chicken, because chicken feed across America is laced with arsenic. So if you do these tests, and if you do a QRMA and you're skeptical, we can order a PAC 22 mineral analysis through directlabs.com. Their doctors will sign off on the testing. It's a blood test that looks at 22 PAC minerals, both regular and heavy metal, in your red blood cells. And it's a federally certified lab, so it's very, very good. We have a gentleman who asked about problems with tooth infections, periodontal disease. Of course, if you start off with NutriSilver, you want to brush your teeth with just a regular toothbrush with NutriSilver. You can also use a hydrofloss, and I recommend you put in the machine Nutrimedical. The hydrofloss is going to change the charge of the plaque on your teeth. If you get a Philips One Sonicare toothbrush, it's the best toothbrush for taking off plaque. I mean, you can use the NutriSilver with that. If you're using a toothpaste, you want to use Jason toothpaste. It's non-fluorinated. It also has components that will actually have to suppress nanobacteria, but the NutriSilver is the best. It has no flavor, it doesn't stain your teeth or do anything. NutriDefense, you would recommend a capsule 3 times a day, and Allicin Med. And the Nutrimedical, you can also take 15 drops 3 times a day, or put it, as I say, in the hydrofloss machine, which you use 4 times a day. For tinnitus, and this individual also had problems, we have Ear Care Menierin. It's very good for tinnitus. We want to stop the free radicals in the cochlea, the hearing mechanism of the middle ear. Gamma E plus and CoQ10, ubiquinol, and BioLVR because of methylation pathway deficiencies of folic acid B12 in the activated state, and the presence of free radicals such as gamma E plus, cell detox glutathione. We have the selenium cruciferate, which is developed at Johns Hopkins University to help increase the levels of glutathione peroxidase. And the CoQ10 ubiquinol is the one for middle ear. It's CNS in middle ear because it crosses the blood-brain barrier. So you can go to a vestibular clinic or get a audiometry done by an ENT specialist and get a baseline, and you start our program. It will gradually heal it. It's not just going to turn it off like taking steroids or disease-modifying drug, just covering it up. It's actually going to heal the underlying problem. Let's see. Oh, yes, we dealt with that already. Let's see. Sometimes I will have an individual who will ask a whole lot of questions and send me a lot of records, and they just think I'm going to provide with tons of records and answer right off the top. If you have just a few sentences or a paragraph or so, I can give you a starter protocol and I can even modify that. But as soon as you start sending records, it requires that we get into what's called a consult mold. And that means you need to purchase, to start with, 2 units of consultation time. You attach either as a PDF to your email the documents, or don't send a zip drive or a thumb drive. What you want to do is send it as, let's say, Google Drive and as an attachment, and I can actually then download it directly to my hard drive. I'll look at anything: imaging, studies, lab work, infectious disease, 23andMe and Prometheus, immunology tests, anything. But it requires a consult. So that's one where the emails for simple, straightforward things are where you say, I have all these different problems, tell me to start a protocol or modify it. That's free. That's a service we provide to lots of people, but when it gets into complex eye conditions or other problems, it is a consult. And it takes a lot of time. It's not just a simple thing where somebody sends me tons of records. And that includes medical legal. Medical legal, if you start asking for a legal opinion or a medical legal report that's going to go to the courts, again, it requires a consult and it requires as complete records as you can. It's a lot of work. And so you start off with 2 units, but my time is required to be covered for me to do that. Now, if you want to get a metapathia test, and I'm finding that to train someone up to do the metapathia correctly, the only person I've trained and now to do that is Jim Garrissey in New York City, and he'll actually travel up to an hour around New York City to do the test for you. Anybody can do a QRMA. It's real simple. You hold the electrode, you press the button to start the test, send the unzipped compressed file to me along with their history form. If they're a client that's not your family, they need to purchase a time unit, 2 time units for the consultation for me to look at their wellness history and their other medical records and the 11-page intake form. If it's your family and you're just going to give me a paragraph or a few sentences on each individual as to what their currently medical challenges are, it's covered. Your QRMA test analysis and your basic consult is covered. There's no cost. That's a really big advantage. So I had a gentleman, Patrick, who's requesting that I get involved with another service. I do not hand over my business control to anyone else. It just goes directly through me. And at the moment, we have only one person that will do metapathia. I'm working on a technology that allow me to have hydrophones and a server base, which will maybe take several years for me to develop the technology to convert the online data stream from the hydrophones directly to my metapathia machines here in Southern California. But at the moment, because metapathia is, number one, expensive and requires someone that's pretty bright to be trained to use it properly and to gather the data and analyze it and actually to do treatment, the only site that I have set up right now is Jim Garcia at PPRDI New York. So QRMA, there's lots and lots of people out there that have the machines. Very few have actually said that they wanted to start the business, although anybody can. You can charge what you think is reasonable to do the test and collect the data and the wellness history form and the person's credit card and their medical records to get them emailed to me or sent over on a Google Drive as an attachment. But that's the status. Right now, QRMA is simple, takes a minute. The metapathia test will take anywhere from a brief test, 10 to 15 minutes, intermediate test up to 20 minutes, And a complete test can take 45 minutes to an hour for the machine to go through the hydrophones to analyze all the different sections. It does actually tomographic sections of every organ. It scans right down to the DNA and right individual chromosomes. It is absolutely remarkable. It'll tell you the exact pathogens. It'll tell you if you have an infection, a blocked artery, cancer, even will tell you the subtype. That's how amazing it is. And you can change the biofrequencies using metazodes, which we can make for you, which are homeopathic. We can also do what's called metatherapy, where we actually change the biocircuits. And we can do that remotely as well, too. So that was built by the Russian Academy of Sciences. There's a lot of quantum mechanics tied to it. It is tied to the Russian Space Agency program with being able to do remote analysis of cosmonauts. Dr. Nesterov and his team started working on this over 50 years ago, so it's got a lot of work. I've actually extended it further by being able to do several things with their data, including oscillographic analysis. And my theory about cell control through harmonic resonant circuits has advanced even over their database and analysis of Dr. Nesterov and Dr. Zhu in China that developed the QRMA. So that's the stats. So QRMA, easy sneezy. Anybody can do it. Metapathia, got to be pretty well a health professional or pretty bright for me to train you. And you have to realize it's expensive, so if you're to recover your income, we'll refer people to you if you're in a particular place or country. But it's a big leap. And you have to have good quality data sent to me because you're part of a consult process where everybody that gets a metapathia has to purchase 4 to 6 units of consultation time because I have to review all your records as well as a metapathia scan. It's not a minor thing. It's like looking at someone's MRI, CT scans, electrocardiograms, blood work, lab work, all their medical records, etc., and then looking at the metapathia scan to do what's called spectral matching to see if there's particular illnesses or pathogens present. And if necessary, recommend they go back to their doctors after I do my consult and get specific tests or treatments done. So it's extremely involved. It's not a minor thing. And it's the most advanced technology for diagnosis on the planet. And it can be done remotely. You can literally take a van up the mountains in Quito, Ecuador, and do a scan on someone, and I can remotely log in through TeamViewer 11 Live or look at the video scan or later on their computer and actually do an analysis to tell you exactly what's going on, along with, of course, their wellness medical history and their other records. So it's extremely valuable. It's going to change the face of medicine, but it's a big learning curve because functional medicine, which is living pathology, and quantum medicine, internal metabolism medicine, immunotoxicology, and stealth pathogen effects on epigenetics are not taught well in medical school or residency, so most doctors don't know this. So I have to teach them. And the best way is to teach them case by case rather than trying to have a whole big course. And I'm going to be putting a lot of this up on videos on pay-per-view over on Vimeo, so you'll see a bunch of videos show up for different conditions that will include a lot more advanced than the regular public, although a regular public can watch these videos in your pay-per-view. You'll see the advanced testing recommendations for, say, MS or cardiac disease or reversing bone problems like osteoporosis or the stem cell protocols and clinics they use for regenerating spine and so on, like Regenerex and Grand Caymanons with my colleague Dr. Chris Centeno and his team. So we have lots of things. Now, I had one lady request information about how to boost her metabolism to burn off calories. The first one I recommended is the NutriDefense. It has anhydrous catechin. Second is to use Green Tea Select, which is a catechins that boosts metabolism. Then you want to convert white fat, which is toxic and bad, to storage fat. That's inflammatory fat, to stimulate by high insulin. That's why insulin's bad. Cell Defense Plus, at least a capsule to 2 capsules twice a day. Force Colon, which is Coleus forscolii. Again, 1 capsule. This is what the one of the Hollywood families, and I don't want to mention them because I don't want to give them any celebrity, we're talking about. But Force Colon's been known for a while to boost white fat conversion. And then, of course, we have microdose human growth hormone. It's actually 100 nanograms of not a releaser, but actual human growth hormone in a homeopathic dosage. You take it 4 times a day, and especially before exercise and bedtime. And we have LipoFlush, which is conjugated linoleic acid. Now, of course, you want to lower blood insulin and glucagon and lower cortisol levels. and that means diabetoline, berberstatin for glucagon, and the use of glycemics, and you can also use leptin metabolic to lower insulin, and because if your insulin's high, it's going to be hard to lose weight. In fact, the Philadelphia studies done about a decade ago indicated that if they pair match 2,000 people of the same age and sex, people that are overweight have to eat 25% on average less calories to maintain their body mass so they don't get fat again. So if you measure their reverse thyroid hormone levels, their metabolism's blunted and their core body temperature is low because they have type 2 hypothyroidism, which you can treat by lowering blood insulin levels and use mitothyroid and the 7 minerals necessary to convert T4 to T3 and prevent the conversion to reverse T3 that actually blocks your metabolism. So long-range space travel could be actually augmented by a T3, reverse T3 drip, which would actually turn your metabolism, put you into, if you want to call it, like hibernation. Had a request from someone having urolithiasis, and they had a very painful syndrome where they passed little micro granules down the urethra. It's real simple. Magnesium potassium citrate will stop kidney and bladder stone formation. BioLVR will actually stop the incorporation of uric acid oxalates in the stones. For insomnia, we recommend Brain Mag and Calm Mind, a scoop 3 times a day and double that dosage before bed, and melatonin TR, at least one of the 2 or 3 tablets you take. You chew, so you break it. Usually there's 1 milligram slow immediate release and 4 slow release per tablet. So some people only need 1 tablet to chew. Other people will need chew 1 and swallow 2, an hour before, half hour to an hour before bedtime. And that you want to time it because every 180 minutes the body has a little pulse of melatonin that's controlled by the hypothalamus. And the issue is that you want to time it to the maximum pulse. If you're sleepy at say 3 o'clock, you can go 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So 9 o'clock, if your body is telling you when you have to go to sleep, but not when you want to go to sleep, you have to start preparing it, say, an hour before by turning off anything with blue light, like televisions, lights in your room, and so on. Start reading or listening to music. Start taking a higher dose Brain Mag, Calm Mind, and melatonin TR. And when your brain is saying it's ready to pulse those melatonin, you already have additional melatonin on hand, and you're calming the brain down so it's preparing for a sleep cycle. And by the way, your stem cells only work when you're sleeping. Your tissues only heal when you're sleeping. They don't heal when you're awake. So if you don't get adequate sleep, you cannot heal or overcome any illness or even extend your life. So in people with sleeping, say 9 to 10 hours of sleep compared to those sleeping 6 to 8, they'll make more money, live longer, and have less health problems. Parasitosis, and I sometimes get questions about how to kill all these parasites. Again, we have our 3 big antipathogenics, Nutrisilver, Allicin Med, and Nutriodine, and they will go through the biofilm. Then you have to recolonize your gut with Living Probiotic, which is the Roselle 6 strain from Paris. Living Probiotic, the most powerful probiotic on the planet, the How Are You strain, and Colon Cleanse. Colon Cleanse is going to help heal the gut and clean out the garbage and the plaque. And Nutra-Immune, which is immunoglobulins. If you've got a pharyngitis or throat inflammation of your duodenum or colon, you want to use GastroHeal, which is zinc carnosine. And it'll heal anywhere from your upper GI tract and duodenum all the way down to the proctocolonic areas of your rectum. So it's a really good thing. If you have hemorrhoids, of course, we have Vein Away. And if you have a motility problem, hypomotility tied to the parasitosis, you want to take IBS Care, which is a bowel release version of carnitine to normalize your bowel activity. So we basically have things that tweak each little issue of your physiology that's out of whack. So it makes a huge difference. Chronic prostate. Prostate Flow, 2 soft gels twice a day until the problems settle down, then you go back to 1. Nutri Defense, 2 capsules twice a day. Swedish flower pollen, this is a normal alpha-1 blocker to normalize bladder activity in the trigone and the outflow tract. You want to take 2 tablets 4 times a day. Bladder Up, 1 soft gel morning and night. And Vision Max, 1 capsule twice a day. And if you're trying to block cancer transformation, we use Malignant Block and ellagic acid to do DNA repair, because cancer is a DNA that is damaged during the hypoxic episodes, and the DNA modifies itself epigenetically, and that's what cancer is modified DNA and epigenetic modification that turns on genes that shouldn't be turned on and turns other ones off. That's why gene-based cancer treatment is essential Never take paint-by-number chemotherapy. Multiple sclerosis. We mentioned this before. Sphingolin. This is myelin basic protein. It actually helps to shut down your T lymphocytes that are attacking your myelin, your oligodendrocytes. Neurogen is docosahexaenoic acid. It's very essential for the myelin sheath. Gamma E plus, because increased peroxynitrate is present. Cell defense plus to stop the inflammatory cytokines in the brain. And CoQ10 supreme ubiquinol, which helps to maintain the energy of metabolism. And if you're, that's the starter protocol. There's additional things. Next step I would recommend is transcranial therapy, such as the micropulse and lumen photon. The lumen you want to stimulate to turn off inflammation at frequency 7, frequency 3 for regeneration of the neural pathways, and the micropulse is going to stimulate your stem cells to heal the brain. So very effective transcranial therapy. Usually put the little electrode pads just in front of the ears, especially when you're sleeping. And mild hyperbaric oxygen is essential for recovery from neurological head injury, MS, stroke, TIA, or let's say the ECMO machine, heart-lung bypass. We'll be back in a moment. Your questions are welcome, 800-313-9443. And welcome back. And the issue of optimized wellness becomes particularly important over the holidays. When you see people getting a year older, people developing new health problems, the Christmas, New Year's time is actually the most common time when people get, with a change in diet and so on, a heart attack, strokes, cancer diagnosis, etc., because the extra challenge to the body kind of pushes it over the edge, and issues start to arise that haven't been around there before. So it's very important that you be aware that the current system of healthcare that's based on symptoms or just on a few markers like blood pressure, etc., will not find these. I had a question by somebody who wanted to know about the gastro cleanse. The gastro cleanse, we don't really recommend that, except once in a while. It has to be special ordered, because some people will actually stay on it for a period of time. Gastro cleanse. The gastro heal, of course, is St. Carnosine. Gastro cleanse is Saccharomyces boulardii. What I usually recommend is they take our antipathogenics and our probiotics, and that will knock out the pathogen, which is better. And if you're looking at doing a test for these pathogens, the QRMA will pick up the general dysbiosis. If you want to get specifics, the Comprehensive Digestive Stool Analysis Tool Test, which is done through Genova Labs in Atlanta, Georgia, through directlabs.com. And I can tell you what tests to do. You can order them yourself. I don't get a commission. I just tell you, do these tests. You'll save a lot of money. Their doctors sign off on it. As soon as you get the test results, send those to me as a consultant, and I'll tell you what nutraceuticals to take to get your bowel back in order. And believe it or not, a lot of people have dysbiotic bowels, leaky gut syndrome, food allergies, gluten intolerance. So we have, by the way, a new gluten product that's coming out in the new year too, that'll help people deal with gluten sensitivity. And it's not just as straightforward as one gluten. We have in our enzymes, gastrozyme, a glutenase, so even if people have a little bit of gluten in their diet, their body can digest it and break it down, which is good. Let's see. I had one gentleman sent me all kinds of information about his eye and failed eye surgeries and failed drugs and retinal surgery. This gets into a consult. In order for me to give you a good answer, you need to send me all the records and we get a proper consult. I don't want to just give an off-the-cuff answer and say just take these 2 or 3 nutraceuticals and you're going to be better. They're important to help as a protective, but you need much more than that. You may need special medical care. And if I, in my consulting position, say, hey, you need to go back to the eye doctor or get a retinologist or do a certain type of procedure, I'll recommend that because I'm familiar with them. And the same thing with someone if they have a condition like multiple sclerosis. There's 5 different subtypes depending on how progressive it is. So I need to know the status, and there's often other autoimmune diseases linked with MS, including tendinitis, bursitis, colitis, etc. So